Namaste. Hello everyone. Welcome to Shal Gulhati, Shiva and Mysticism for another episode of Monday with Mahadev. Today I'm going to talk to you about what is Shiva nature. And I'm not saying what is Shiva's nature, but what is Shiva nature in another person? What is it to be like Shiva? Or as we say in spirituality, to have the call of Shiva, to be in the same mold as Shiva, Shiva nature. In Hindi, we have a word called Lakshana. Lakshana means typically a trait or a nature of a person that will point to what he is most probably going to do. So if we have a person who has a Lakshana of being very jolly, we can say that he would be a jovial person. Or then if we have someone who gets angry very quickly, his Lakshana is to get angry very quickly, we can say that, well, he will be a very warring kind or a fighting kind of person. So to explain to you what it is to have Shiva nature, the Lakshana of Shiva within oneself, I'm going to take a very similar sounding name of character from the Ramayana, and that is Lakshmana, Ramji's younger brother. Now, we all agree that Hanumanji, the mighty ape warrior, the divine warrior of Ramji, is basically a Rudra avatar or a sort of partial incarnation of Shiva, so that Shiva himself can be around Vishnuji when he is in trouble. While that is agreed upon, I am talking about Shiva nature being in another very big character in the Ramayana, which is Lakshman. Now, we all know Lakshman stands out for loyalty. When we think of Lakshman, we think immediately of a very loyal brother who is always with his brother Ram like a shadow 24/7. So to be loyal is the first thing that comes to our mind when we talk of Lakshman's Lakshana or Lakshman's traits. And loyalty here does not only mean to be with his elder brother, because even Bharat and Shatrughan, the other two brothers, were loyal to Sri Ram. There is no denying that. But Lakshman's loyalty was not only the steadfastness of being with his elder brother, but also it had a viveka, a discrimination in it. He was intelligent enough to know that their father Dashrath, whom of course he was loyal to as well, because his basic nature, his trait was to be loyal. So Lakshman was loyal to the father, Raja Dashrath, but he had the spiritual discrimination to see that the father's verdict on Sri Ram to banish him, to send him into exile, just when he was supposed to be anointed as the king. Lakshman saw that this was a very sad thing happening, a wrong thing to happen, and then he took action. So it was not just loyalty of steadfastness, it was also spiritual discrimination, what is right and what is wrong, and then to take action. And he said, well, I'm going with my brother wherever he goes, for however long he goes. So we know this about Lakshman. And loyalty, as I have described it to you, with not just steadfastness, but spiritual discrimination and action, this is the nature of Mahadev. Then, when the Ramayana moves on, we have that very famous incident where Shabri, the old lady who has been waiting for Sri Ram, and she, gets out the jujubes, she gives him bear, and she tastes each bear to give it to Ram and to Lakshman, because her intent is that they should not get any bad bear or bad tasting bear. And we all know that while Ramji gratefully accepts those bears and eats them, Lakshman refuses. And this has not been deliberated upon much other than maybe a princely arrogance, but here again it shows his nature was to experience whatever came his way. Whether his bear was good, whether the food he was getting was going to be good or going to be bad, Lakshman wanted to experience it firsthand. So while Ramji was playing one character of God, which is Vishnuji, which is love towards his bhakt who is giving him tasted bears, on the other hand, Lakshman was playing Shiva nature again. I will experience whatever is in store for me. So this was again Shiva nature in Lakshman. And then a very important part often overlooked is that Lakshman was strictly a one-woman man. He left with Ramji and Sitaji into exile, and for 14 years he never looked at another woman, and his wife Urmila was in the palace for all this time, and Lakshman was a bachelor. So strictly a one-woman man. And we know that this also led to the other story which I told you some time back about Shurupanakha, Ravan's sister. Well, she thought she had a chance to engage Lakshman in some kind of friendship, but that worked out very badly. So being totally a one-woman man is Shiva nature. And last but not the least is one very surprising aspect of Lakshman, which makes me think that he is totally of Shiva nature, of having the call of Mahadev, of being like him in his being. And that is anger. Yes, anger. Lakshman was known to be a person with a very short fuse. He could not tolerate nonsense beyond a few minutes. Ramji was peaceful and calm, and he could tolerate somebody who was not being very nice, who was being nasty for a long time. Because he was Vishnuji, he was very calm. But Lakshman had Shiva nature, as I'm trying to say. And beyond a certain point, very quickly, if something was obviously wrong, obviously cruel, obviously being a bully, Lakshman would not stand it at all and would get into his Lakshan of taking on a fight. And we see this before the brothers were exiled and at the Swayamvara, where Ramchandra at Raja Janak's palace and at his invite for the Sita Swayamvar, he picked up the bow of Lord Shiva and he was going to aim and spring it, but it broke with his strength. And Parshuram, who is another avatar of Sri Vishnuji, came to the spot, and Parshuram happened to be a great bhakt of Mahadev himself. And so Parshuram comes and he gets very angry with Ramji for having broken the bow. And Ramji is talking to him very peacefully. But after a few minutes, it is Lakshman who says, "Wait a minute, Parshuram, what is your problem? Aapko kya takleef hai? Aapko kya problem hai?" So he wants to fight. That was his anger. And of course, Ramji intervenes and he tells Parshuram that he's my younger brother and he means well. He's like a shadow to me. And this is called Lakshman Parshuram Vivad. And Parshuramji tells Ramchandraji that your brother is very handsome. He looks divine, but he has got a short temper. And this was actually a great evidence of Lakshman's Shiva nature. And Parshuram, being a Shiva Bhakt, perhaps inwardly realized that this younger brother has a lot of Shiva nature in him, and therefore he played out his Leela and backed off. And Lakshman, last but not the least, the name itself if we break it into two, Lakshmana, it has a tremendous meaning connecting him to Mahadev again. Laksha, goal, aim. Mana, to make up the mind. As we modern day mystics, before starting some meditations or some studies or some project, we make an intention. In corporate world also, before beginning a mission, we make a mission statement. So Lakshmana, to make up our mind for a particular goal. And this is what Lakshmana did in every action of his, including the one of having left his beloved wife Urmila in the palace, but with the intent to come back one day. And in India, in the north, when we go on the highways from my town Jammu to Delhi, we see a lot of truckers, and they have some very interesting placards behind their trucks. And one of them used to be, "Wait for me, I will come back." And this was so lovely. It is the husband who's a truck driver and who's going maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 miles away, and he's got this huge placard on his truck which is telling his beloved family, "Wait for me, I will come back." And every time I used to see this placard, guess who I would think of? Yes, of Lakshmana, the brother who left Urmila and told her in his mind, "Wait for me, I will come back with my brother, with my bhabi, my sister-in-law, and I will be back into Ayodhya to be rejoined with you." So this is typically a Shiva nature. So all these 4 or 5 Lakshans being in Lakshman made me think that apart from Hanumanji, in the Ramayana, it is Lakshman who has a great Shiva nature. And we too can inculcate these things likewise. Even if we find that we are angry sometimes, we can learn to channel that into a good thing, a positive thing, even a spiritual thing. That is Shiva nature. I hope you like this talk. Join me again here next Monday, and I will be back with yet another Shiva wisdom for you. Om Namah Shivaya.